Good day, sports fans. Welcome to Vegas Legends. And this week we have a very special guest. Kenny White, known as the man behind the curtain, sets the odds and power play ratings for NFL and college football action. Hi, I'm your host, Chip Chirimbes. Kenny, it's great to have you aboard. Longtime friends, and this is, I think, one of the first times we've ever worked together.
No doubt about it, Chip. Great to see you again. It's been a while now, and we'd worked a little bit together over at the Don Best Studios, and it was such a pleasure to really get to know you a lot better at that time because we knew each other kind of just, cordially here or there running into each other. But those days, I think it was 2010, 2011, 2012. We really got to know each other well there, and it was fun. Jim Feist was another guy that I got to know Jim a lot better at that time. And yeah, a lot of fun, and so glad. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, it's a pleasure, believe me, and you are one of the Vegas legends, without a doubt. And I'm glad to have you with you. And I remember, going into Feist's office and you working diligently on the power ratings. And I want to get to the power ratings and let everyone out there know, before we analyze any of the games, exactly how do you come to decisions and how do you rate these teams? And I was just thinking too, Kenny, how difficult it must be now when you have 18 teams in one conference. And does that make it more difficult, or is it, or well, let's just start with a power rating at the end of a season. Now the new season starts. How do you make your adjustments? How do you go about deciding whether a team is improved or whether their ratings should be lowered?
Well, Chip, this started with my dad back in the 70s, and he published 4 college magazines back in the 70s, 72, 73, 74, and then 1977. He came up with a power rating system for each individual player, and that actually came out of a pack of chewing bubblegum cards, sports cards from 7-Eleven. I'm opening my packs up after I was at 7-Eleven, and I was upset. Oh my God, what's this? It's a defensive end card. And my dad goes, let me see that. And he looks at it, and it had it was from Topps.
Right.
And he looked through it and had all the prerequisites, what a defensive end would have to be: size, look, feel, skills. He goes, here's $20. Go to 7-Eleven and buy every pack. I need every position. So I went down to 7-Eleven.
Kenny, that's how it started. I mean,
that's how it got started
in this business. I mean, really, baseball cards or football cards, that's really something else.
Yeah. So my dad actually, he used to power rate when he was a kid in his teens. The first sport he ever power rated was hockey, and he did it from hockey playing cards, from the Topps playing cards from the players, and he was rating them out from their stats from the back of the card. And then when he got this card for the defensive ends, he came up with an individual rating for every player.
Right.
And that's what I still, this day, in every sport, I have a power rating on every player on the team, even the third and fourth string in college football. So I have that rating. I add all the starters up: offense, defense, special teams, and I get an overall rating for that team. And that's what I use to start the year with, and I adjust it from game to game, week to week. And I'm very successful. And, I've been doing it for such a long time, Chip, and I'll tell you this. I really started to believe in it 100% 5 years ago. And I'm such a believer in it now because I can handicap any league, and it's so much fun to do. Like, I'll handicap the TBT. It's the basketball tournament. It's $1 million for the winner.
Right.
You can give me a roster of 15 players, and I will tell you who the 5 starters are supposed to be just from their stats that I have. And I am right on about 85% of the time that I can name all 5 starters.
This has got to take incredible diligence on your end. I have a question about the power rating itself. Do you equate each point on your power rating to 1 point on the field? In other words, if you have one team's a 91 and another team's an 84, does that mean they're a 7-point favorite?
I built my system to have every point value for the players to equal the betting line. Now, the one thing I do differently from my power rating sheet that I send out, I talk about power ratings, sports betting, and coming up with a bet is 80% numbers, 20% science. Right. And sometimes it's that eyeball test. It's the revenge factor. It's the look at, it's the matchups. But on the power rating sheet, it's 100% numbers. And when I do a little extra to add in that science, I take 20% off my favorites because I don't want to bet favorites. So the way to get me off the favorite, the power ratings tell you what the true favorite should be, but they don't play to that. A 10-point favorite could win by 1,
Right.
and they celebrate like they won the Super Bowl. They don't care about winning by 10.
Right.
They just, if they're up 7, they're up 8, they get so conservative because they know they're winning, and that's all they care about. Now, if they didn't get conservative and you told that coach, you're only getting paid if you cover the 10-point spread, they would cover that spread more often than they ever do.
Yeah. Is it, now, do you actually grade every single player on a team to come up with a rating for the team overall? Because that's an incredible amount of work. You don't.
Every player in every sport.
That's amazing.
Last year, but I've got so much automated now, Chip. I've got my algorithms and models.
Do you get to sleep?
These leagues.
Do you get to sleep at all? I'm just wondering what all this.
Yeah, because of the technology now. My daughter's just really learning this, and she doesn't have it. I haven't handed her the models. I've been making her do this like we did it with Fred Flintstone with rock and chisels and putting the numbers on rocks, and now she's doing paper. I'm making her do it the hard way.
Well, I'll tell you what, she's doing pretty well. I mean, I know I've seen her handicapping results, and I always look to see who she has because I hope she's not fading my side. Believe me, I respect her opinion. That's why I was trying to get her here, and I still hope to be able to have you and her together because it's a great story. It really is. All right, let's get to conference ratings. You rate conferences have to be rated overall differently. Do you rate the overall conference as well as say the individual teams in it?
All of my ratings are based off of strength of schedule and who you played and when you play. So
right.
I use a lot of the stats from the previous years to come up with the rating for that player for this year. But those stats are all adjusted to who they played. So obviously, an FCS team like Sacramento State, their stats aren't equivalent to Michigan's or Oklahoma or Auburn or Alabama. So I adjust everyone's stats to the level they play
right.
and who they play.
All right, Kenny, sometimes there's like big changes. Vanderbilt last year, Indiana last year, and where teams just come on. And of course, Florida State, the way they just fell apart. How quick and are you to make that adjustment in the power rating? And how long does it take to recognize? Does it gradually, or do you ever, what would you say is the biggest jump where you've dropped or raised the team in value?
You're at the beginning of the year, that is when I make my biggest adjustments. The first couple of games, because you have to adjust quickly. And after you see 4 or 5 games, you hope you've got a pretty solid rating on that team, and you don't have to be as knee jerk. But Chip, I don't really like. I put 3 hours in on each team, and probably with the computer now and the work it's doing behind the scenes, it might be more like 6 hours on each team. Not for me, but in all the aspect of it. So I don't want to adjust too far. So a knee-jerk reaction for me would be about 3 points for after one game.
Right.
I don't like to adjust any more than that. So because you're gonna get caught adjusting too far sometimes.
Okay, I got to ask about say Clemson Tigers this year. Some magazines even predicted they had a chance to win it all, and they were a shoe-in for the the FBS play championships. They're 1-2. They haven't looked good at all. I mean, how much have you dropped them this season?
I was one of those believers. I had them ranked the number 1 team in the country.
There you go.
And I would have to go. I'm going to check real quick, and I'll let you know what I started their rating.
Right.
And what I have their rating now. And I'll tell you, I don't recall off the top of my head, but I'm pulling up the power ratings.
Okay.
I got to go through each file, through each year. I'm down to the NCAA 2025 and week 0 power ratings. Clemson is, so I started them actually number 2 in the country.
Right.
Number 2 in the country, a 124 rating. I had Texas number 1. So my number 1 and number 2 team in the country have been completely embarrassing for me, but that's
What do
just
they
the way
now?
it goes.
What do you have Clemson now?
Let me look. Week 4 power ratings. And week 4, Clemson by rank. I have Clemson number 11 in the country, 117.5. They've dropped 6.5 points.
6.5. That's a touchdown virtually. And
Yep.
I'm sorry, how big was the drop last year with Alabama? Just off your head. When they started and they just ended up having well, even right now, their program is just like a Midland school, for crying out loud.
One of the biggest ones I think that I talk about a lot is Colorado with Deion Sanders.
Right.
When he came in there, he improved that program 14 points through the transfer portal. And then his coaching style and his motivational styles improved that team another 10 points. So they were 25 points better at one point from the previous year. But then Shedeur Sanders got hurt, and I think he missed a couple of games.
Right.
And they dropped off almost 8 points. And that's his value was that much because their backup quarterback wasn't very good. And they lost a lot of offensive line pieces. So he brought in a lot of good players, but they had no depth on the offensive line. So their rating was more crazy than it went up. Right. And then at the end of the year, it dropped down about 10 points. So that was one I remember that I had to go back and forth with.
All right. Now I have a question about this team because they were so good to us last year. Arizona State came from nowhere, and they had to go up the power rating scale without a doubt. Now this year, without Scottaboo and losing the attrition they had, how much of a drop off do you have, and do you think they can maintain that level as far as your power ratings concerned?
Well, I'm looking at my week 0 ratings. I got them ranked 12th in the country, a 116 rating. So there's still a ton of talent there. Kenny Dillingham's done a great job for such a young guy. I don't trust young coaches because you and I both know when we were 30, we thought we knew everything. And at this point in my life, when you do things when you're 30, you're not really sure if you're doing the right thing. You think you are, but when you're in your 50s and you've done it before, and you're in your 60s, you've done it before, and you saw it work, and you know it works, you now are somebody that can do it over again and make it happen again. Kenny Dillingham, I think, could have a couple of tough years at Arizona State because a guy that young, if he starts to lean on his laurels a little bit of one or two good teams, things could fall apart for him quickly.
All right, Kenny, let me talk about future conferences. SEC's got 10 teams that are 3-0. And they only have one team that's under 500, and that's Florida. And that's, when you think about that, Florida has been in the doldrums, I say, for, a half a decade, I'd say. But they got a big one this weekend against Miami. And how the power ratings coming up in that one?
Well, let me find that on the sheet real quick.
Because I think they have.
You have
they're
the
a huge
game
favorite.
number?
I mean, they're at least a huge favorite are the Hurricanes here. And
yeah, I know. And I'm trying to find it on my sheet, the game number, Florida and Miami. I know it's on here because I talked about it this morning. These two teams, I think, both throw the football.
But like say the SEC having 18 teams in the same conference, does that ease the burden and make it a little bit easier to interpret the power ratings, or does it add confusion?
Chip, with these mega conferences now, and they play more conference games, I think by the end of the year, you're going to get a really strong rating on those teams because of their playing that schedule. But what it's going to do is the SEC has always been known as kind of like AAA football for the NFL. Yeah. It's NFL light. They're just going to get so much better because when you play better competition, you get better. And it's going to force these SEC teams to play week in and week out against great competition. They are going to dominate college football over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Every other conference is going to suffer.
It's the Big 12 has like 5 teams undefeated, and like the Big 10 has 10 teams that are 3-0. And it just seems like there's a haves and a haves nots, and the way these conferences are built is. I'm not happy with it. You got two teams in the Pac-12, and that's the other thing, Kenny. Educators, they're so smart. You got the Big Ten has 16 teams. The Pac-12 has 12 teams. I mean, it's amazing that they actually consider themselves higher education. But you know what I'm saying. But there's a couple of great games. I think that Florida Miami game is pretty interesting this weekend, and I was wondering how that thing panned out. But
I got I got it right here in front of me. I found the game, and Billy Napier's definitely got to be on the hot seat. He was
yeah,
on the
without a
hot
doubt.
seat last year. He won a couple games to take off the pressure, but now it's tough. You know, Mario Cristobal, I think, is doing a good job there, and I think Mario Cristobal will be able to pull this game out. Great offensive line coach. I'm not really sold on Mario Cristobal and his play calling, and maybe not even his motivational stuff, but he does know how to teach offensive line play, and he's got a really good quarterback coach. And I think it's a team that's going to have a very good year in Miami. I think Florida's struggling enough here that the pressure is on. I think the Hurricanes cover this spread. I think they can run up a score here.
All right, now, okay, now there's another game out there that I have particular interest in, and I see the number. We have Illinois at Indiana, and Indiana having that season they had last year with the coaching change, and I'm really a big fan. Uh, they're a pretty strong favorite here, and I seem to think, I seem to see, Kenny, that the professionals, the handicappers, are really gravitating toward the Illini in this one.
Yeah, they are. You know, I love both of these coaches. Brett Bielema, when he got to the Illinois,
Yeah,
and he brought in the Wisconsin mindset and two tight end sets, power run game, play defense, shorten the game, give yourselves a chance to win. I was betting on Illinois almost every week with him as the head coach, and he's done a fabulous job. They were nothing before he got there.
right.
Now
Yeah,
here he's a top 25 team. And same thing with Cincinnati. And Cincinnati did it even faster. This guy's a mastermind. What a great coach. It's a great coaching mismatch or great coaching matchup. Looking at my style of play, and both these teams, I think, have been over teams so far. Well, Illinois is 2-1 to the under, like they're supposed to be. Indiana 2-1 to the over. But
right.
both of these teams like to run the ball 60% of the time, and both of these teams play very slow. Tempo wise, they're both in the bottom half of college football.
Okay.
I think you're going to have less plays in this game than you do a normal college game. It's going to be tight, and I think it's going to be low scoring.
You know, Kenny, that's such a key factor in playing the totals, the number of plays that teams run, and it is one of the, like I said, the more important factors. Now we'll talk about the MAC. The MAC has 5 teams that are 0-3, and that's it. Just seems like every year that's a team that's a conference that gets beat up, and even in the bowl games, I don't think they fare all that well.
It's going to get worse, as you mentioned, Chip. The 18 teams in the SEC, and it's going to turn into 4 power conferences. So as we have FBS and FCS, I think we're going to end up with FBS with 4 conferences only, and all of the other teams will be moved into like a middle tier FBS light or something, and give those teams a chance to compete for a championship like the FCS teams do. You know, MAC, everyone loves MACtion. They play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You get to know these teams. A lot of them are high scoring, spread offenses, play fast and downhill, and they're fun to watch. But the talent level has dropped drastically in the MAC, as it has in, you know, I'm bringing this up, nobody bets on it, but junior college. Junior college used to be a good method to recruit kids from, to create a better program because you get more talented players. These were kids that just didn't get it done in the classroom in high school, so they had to go to junior college. 4-year schools are now allowing these kids that don't do well in the classroom an easier avenue to get to 4-year school, and they're allowing them to come in. The requirements are lower now for kids that are on a scholarship. So the junior colleges have taken a big hit. The level of competition in junior college is really low now, and you don't get really great players out of the junior colleges to go to the big schools. Mid-American struggles because of that now vastly. So that conference, the talent level is way below what it used to be. I would say on average, Chip, it's down about a touchdown from where it used to be.
All right. Thank you, Kenny. That's Kenny White, by the way. he is the man behind the curtain, known as the top, well, odds maker in Las Vegas for 40 years now. Kenny, you've
Used
been
to
doing this
be.
at least. I've been out here, and I know that his power ratings are one of the most respected in the nation. So, it's KennyWhiteSports.com. I mean, that's where you can find his information as well as his selections and power ratings. Kenny, it's great to have you with me. I'm really, really happy to have you. I hope we can do this again, maybe on a continuum. I have one question, one game I want to present to you because the fact that it's starting 10 o'clock in the morning local time. And these college kids, they're not going to be out that night, I don't think. But we're talking about a game in Utah where Texas Tech is ranked 17th. Utah's ranking 16th. Utah up a very poor season last year. And Kenny, I'm hearing that the money that was spent at Texas Tech in the offseason and the NIL program has this team. They're giving this team a shot to make it to the FBS championship. And they think that they really can make a run at some of the top schools.
Both these teams, I think, are very well coached. Kyle Whittingham for Utah, a great coach, and he brings in talent there every year. And the thing about it is these kids have a real strong bond at Utah. But Texas Tech, Joey McGuire is now one of the up and comers in college football, and his style of play. Utah is going to want to run the football. They're going to want to control the clock, and they're going to want to play at their pace where you're going to get Texas Tech trying to go up tempo and play fast. My numbers on my power rating sheet are right there for both. I'm gonna say you put a gun to my head and I got to make a play on the game. I'm going to take Kyle Whittingham. He has more experience. Utah at that high elevation could affect the Texas Tech players a little bit. It's really tough to play in Salt Lake, especially with Whittingham as the head coach. I think he'll be well more prepared. And I always like to go with the guy that likes to play the slower tempo. The team that likes to play the fast tempo, it seems like they can't play a slow down game. And I think that's what Texas Tech's going to be forced into here. So I do lean to the Utes.
Sort of like the pace in a basketball game too, as well. The thing about this game that's interesting, I'm wondering how your power ratings clash here, because here's Texas Tech scoring 58 points a game, and here's Utah having allowed 10, 9, and 8 in their 3 games. So you have one team that's going to be strong on defense, like you said, and another team that's going to look to score a lot of points. I mean, did the power ratings just explode when you try to put these things together? What happens with them?
Yeah, again, I adjust these to the level of play that who they're going up against, and I wanted to look at my numbers to make sure I had the same numbers that you just were talking about. Points, 4 points against. Yeah, 8.3 points per game the Utes are allowing, but Texas Tech at 11.7. They both have tremendous defenses. Yeah. So it'll be played. I think it's played at a little slower pace, though. As I said, I wanted to see what Utah. Their pace per play. They've been playing fairly fast, though, this year. Utah, 26.4 seconds in between plays. Texas, much, much faster. But the one thing Utah, Kyle Whittingham is going to run the football. They run it 61% of the time. And if they're having success on the ground, they're going to continue to run it down your throat. This Kyle Whittingham is a really smart guy, and he's not going to try to reinvent the wheel. He's going to use what works, and if it's working, he'll keep doing it till you stop it.
Yeah, it's these two clubs, they're so different, and I was just looking at it and I'm saying, how are you going to work this one out? But thank you very much, Kenny White from Kenny White Sports, right here, the man behind the curtain, the top sports, I guess, power rating and lines maker for years out here, Kenny. I just can't believe it. And by the way, his daughter, as he mentioned, also is in the handicapping business, and we hope to have Alex on as well. Kenny, thank you so much. Definitely one of the Vegas legends, and maybe we'll be able to do this again sometime, if not every time. Good luck, everyone. See you next week.